Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to cover the topic of digitalization, and digitalization may have different meaning in different parts of the world. So what I am referring today is how we have improved digitalization in the Pakistan post arena. Just to give you a context why digitalization is important, if you check the figures of 2024, in global shipping there were 900 million TEUs container moved. And if we see the size of the Pakistani container market, 3.5 million TEUs are handled by all ports in Karachi. So there is a lot of scope with respect to digitalization. And if I see, like when I joined the shipping industry in 1994, so the way systems were run was like almost all containers are, all the terminals in the shipping line are dumb terminals. So like there were no concept of PC. So whatever containers were received during the last 24 hours, they were manually written in a tally sheet with the container number, seal number, and then in the morning some rider from the port comes to the shipping line office, and then those containers were updated on the online system. So basically we are going to cover why digitalization is necessary, who needs to know, why they need to know, what tools that we have developed in DP World Karachi, and results and benefits for the local economy. So in this presentation, we are not going to cover what digital systems we use internally within the DP World, because there are lots and then it will take a lot of time. So the primary focus is how it has benefited the trade which is interacting with the container terminals. This is a picture of our terminal from drone view. Okay, we had a lot of challenges pre-digitalization, and one of them was manual paperwork, as I have discussed earlier. And there was no visibility for the shipper. Shipper is very conscious about the status of his container, where it is, and same applies for the consignee. So they need to know the information in real time. Also, without digitalization, there is a lot of manual work that needs to be done, and it increases the clearance time of the goods that are moved from the port. And there was also more paperwork, more resources required in terms of manual labor. And the process is slow and prone to errors, because if you made one mistake in the container number, then it becomes difficult to trace it. Okay, these are the initiatives that DP World has taken and their timelines. So we will going to discuss them later, but just to give you our journey, in 2009, we have developed an LFS website which most of the shipping, clearing agents, shipper, consignees, all of them uses to get the status of their container. In 2016, we have developed AutoGate system. Then in 2018, we have launched electronic delivery order, online payment, self-invoicing, and also QICD gauge management system phase 1. And in 2019, we have launched a mobile app as well as revised version of our container tracking system. In 2024, we have launched QGMS exports of the revised version, and also QGMS imports. So who needs to know? There are many stakeholders working with the container terminal. There are shipper, consignees, clearing agents, customs agencies, different other agencies, and anti-narcotic force. So all of them have requirement with respect to the real-time information. So we take this segment as shippers and clearing agent. What information they need. So we have taken some of the major information that they need. One is gate-in confirmation. Shipper is very conscious about when their container gates in, because most of the shippers have an agreement with the buyers that they need to deliver container in port by a certain amount of time or to meet certain ship. So they are very conscious that this container reaches in time, and most of the time they are delayed in production, so they are late arrival, so they are very conscious when their container gets in. And they check shipping schedule, which vessels are expected to cross ports. Then there are different services applies in the terminal, like payment, scanning, other custom processes. What is the status of the billing? Because once the container arrives in the terminal, different services are applied, then the billing status is updated. So based on that, they make payments, and then their container is released for the purpose of loading, and finally the container is loaded onto the vessel. So they also need to know whether it is actually loaded or left behind for some reason. So multiple times they are checking our digital sites to see what is happening. The other part is consignees, clearing agents. They need to know whether their container is discharged or not. That's the key information that they need. Once they knew, although they know that it is coming on this particular vessel, but sometime for some reason the container is left behind, or there is a systematic incorrect data and containers actually don't arrive on that particular vessel. So they are conscious that their container has arrived or not. And once they are sure that it has arrived, then they do their documentation process, file their goods declaration with the customs-based duties, and any other services which they need, like survey, container release status, they want to know the position. So everything is there in our website. Then trucking companies. So once either the trucking company is bringing the container into the terminal, or they are moving container out of the terminal for the consignee. So they need to plan their operations like when it will be more feasible for them to bring their trucks. So in order to have less waiting time at the terminal, so they have a look at our site. Shipping lines need information for gate movement time, what are the inventory levels they have, because they are also managing the inventory in the container terminal, be it full containers or the empty container. Because if they have more full containers, so the way container terminal works is, if the container is coming into the terminal and it is going out, then the system works. If the system is distorted for any reasons, consignees are not taking delivery, slowly the container becomes congested, and as a result of which the productivity drops and the performance of the shipping line also drops. So they see that what are the inventory levels, terminal performance metrics, that is like KPI, how fast we are completing their vessel, what is the train moves per hour, when the vessel is completing. Because when they know that vessel is completing on that particular time, then they book the sailing with the port authorities, inform the next port when their vessel is going to arrive. So they need that kind of planning, equipment interchange report, whether the container is in sound condition or not, or so all these informations they are using, and what is the container status if they need to know for their customer, whether it is on board or it is in the terminal. So all kind of informations they need to know. Why do they need to know? So shippers and clearing agents, they want to confirm that the container is safely handed over to the terminal. There is a lot of concerns in the market that once the container leaves their factory, it arrives in the same condition or not, or whether there is a pilferage en route. So they have in the past hired people that once the container reaches our port area, they take the picture of the seal, that internal seal that they have applied, whether the container has reached with the same seal or not. or there is some that has gone. Cut-off time. Cut-off time is the time with which terminal gave that if you complete your formalities and bring containers by a certain time, we will ensure that your container is loaded. After that, we also try to facilitate, but that's on chance basis. Then to monitor container arrival, whether their containers actually reach the terminal or not, clear payments in time, and to know the real-time status. Consignees, as discussed earlier, to confirm discharge status, prepare documentation, know clearance whether customs has cleared the container for delivery or not, monitor various activities that terminal is performing, scanning, payment, examination, to generate gate pass for delivery, and to track link activity of each and every container. They make payment and plan for final delivery or arrival. Shipping lines, optimizing vessel utilization and turnaround time. They are always in touch with us, like how soon we are completing the vessel, and for them, vessel makes the money better when it is on the sea. So they want to reduce the port time to as low as possible, so they keep on monitoring us. When there is an interaction between our system and their system, they know what amount of bill they have to pay to us. So for their invoicing and cost control, as discussed, plan working for next ports. They also need to make arrangements for intermodal movements, like, for example, if a container has to go from Karachi to Lahore on the carrier college, then they need the information. They need to advise it to their own customer, and it is used for their customer service. And we have a constant EDI with the shipping line, so they can serve their customer, and ensuring regulatory compliance, security benefits, etc. Trucking company, of course, they are the ones who bring the container to the terminal or take the container from the terminal, so they know where the container is exactly in the terminal. So when they come into the terminal, they know where to go to get it. To confirm container is ready for delivery or not. Sometimes container is ready for delivery, but there is an equipment breakdown or some other kind of issue due to which we block the stacks and stop the delivery, so they know that they can come later. And to efficiently plan routing and dispatch. So let's come to our digital tools that we have developed. This is our customer facilitation website, which we call LFS. So what happens before that website? They need to have multiple visits to the terminal, so they can come to our service delivery desk, and then we go into our system and find that information and tell it to them so they can plan it. Then similarly, with respect to invoice status, there was long queue at the counter, delivery orders were manual. Then this website, if you see on the top right-hand corner, we have put some information that we display. There are other information as well. So they can track the container in real time, invoicing status, request services, payment, because some consignees prefer to take wait before they exit the terminal. So they want to be sure that what was the wait before leaving the terminal. That's again to monitor the bill rate, that whether trucker has moved something on the way or not, so the payment is important. And then submit delivery orders. So we have developed another tool that was self-invoicing in online payment. Before that, a clearing agent needs to drive to QICT or its facility in Karachi. If they request for invoice, they verify whether it is correct or not. And if it is correct, then they go to the bank, take the pay order or cash, and then deliver it to QICT. So 3-4 hours were wasted. Now they can request the invoice through our app, or the website. Once the invoice is received, they see everything is all right. If they see there's something is incorrectly applied, then they send an email, and if the correction is required, then the correction is made. And then they pay the corrected invoice amount. And now we also have a tool that they can pay it digitally without going to any banks or not. So the benefit is fast clearance, secure payment, reduce footprints at billing counter, and we have integration with all major banks. This is how our mobile application looks. So whatever you were seeing on the website, now you also have the option to see it in the app, and then you can get all the information wherever you are and make your service request. Okay, this was one of the interesting systems that we have developed, that in 2016, that a container was arriving at the gate. The trucker is one party and the clearing agent is the other party. So roughly they used to wait for 6 hours, because either truck is not in time or the clearing agent was not in time, and then they used to submit the documentation as per regulatory requirements. Survey needs to be done, and if all documents are in order, then they get the fast track to enter into the terminal. So now we have, and it usually took 6 hours if we take average time. So now we developed QICT gate management system. So we tried to do it in 2018, it was not a success. But now in 2024, we have relaunched the revised version, and the 50% of the trade is shifted into that. Benefit of it is that you don't need to come to the terminal. You upload all your documents into our website. We check if something is missing. We advise a particular document is missing, you need to re-upload. So by the time truck arrives, everything is ready and it goes into the terminal. Similarly, we are also working on gate management system for imports. They require a thing called gate pass, which is delivered after all the payments are made and delivery order is submitted to the terminal. So previously they used to come to the terminal or our office in Karachi and then collect that document and give it to someone to bring it to Port Paston, which is like 45 kilometers away. So it was a lot of administrative hassles for the clearing agents. So we have also given them the option to print it from their home or office or wherever they are. And it's a kind of OTP kind of system where they can print the document and they receive OTP in their emails and mobile phone. And then that OTP they can send it to their trucker, and on that basis they can print that document. Because that document is pretty secure, because you are taking a delivery of a container worth more than 1 crore, 2 crores. So you need to be very sure that the right party is taking the delivery. So with this OTP system, their hassle of going to the terminal is finished. It's pretty new, and so right now 10% of the trade is using it. Electronic delivery order. That was, we were the first terminal to introduce it. And there was a lot of reluctance by the shipping line initially to accept it. We approached 2 major lines and they were not ready. So we approached another line and somehow they were very excited about it, and it gives them the convenience to print delivery order even from their home. And so we try to customize it according to the needs of the shipping line. Like if one shipping line wants one particular feature, so we have made that, another one wants something different, so we facilitated them. So once that shipping line started to use it, and because customers are saying they are using one shipping line or sometimes they are using another, so they demanded the other shipping line that I'm getting this facility from this shipping line, so why you are not delivering it? So that created a demand, and other shipping lines agreed for that. So now we are having 90% of our deliveries through electronic delivery orders. And this tool is very handy, especially during the COVID time, when people are not moving smoothly. So these all electronic tools, the CMA just in their use during the COVID time. So prior to that, our clearing agent goes to the shipping line, gives his original bill of lading, takes the delivery order, and then bring the delivery order to port casting, take the gate pass, and then arrange the truck. So all these steps are now eliminated. So he goes to the shipping lines release the container, he get an electronic message, and its in system is ready to move. So initially there was a psychology that I want to have a paper, that it has actually happened. So we gave them a paper option which is not a secure paper, so they feel comfortable that it has actually reached the terminal. So now I don't think anybody is using that paper, but initially to make them happy that the paper is there, so we also give the option to the shipping line to have that paper printed. So all that hassle, and also one of the main feature is if your delivery order is lost, then it becomes a very much of a legal hassle to issue another one or duplicate one. So with this one, you don't have a fraudulent delivery orders, and you don't have the chances of loss. Then comes our OCR auto gates. We have a pre-gate at the terminal where all documentation is done. Previously, we used to have 5 booths, and all of them are manned. Since we are working in the 3 shifts, so we need to have 15 people. So since all the information was available, so we gave them RFID plates at the pre-gate, and which they just show it to the booths, and it gives you a slip and tells you where to go. So that simple it has become. So, and then also in this picture, if you see there are cameras, we also take the status of in which container, which state the container has arrived. So if there is a dispute that terminal has damaged the container, we go to our system, retrieve the pictures, show it to them, that that was the condition of container when it was received. Results and benefits. We have improved the ease of doing business, and also it has reduced the cost of doing business, which is one of the major concerns for the trade. And once we do it, then all others also do it, and other tools do it, something which we have not done it. So we also do it. So as an overall, the trade improves and facilitation improves. It improves the dwell time, enhance visibility, make environmentally friendly operations. So it has little bit contributed to the green side of the economy, and better predictability for shipping lines and clearing agents. So what it has reduced: elimination of paper, courier costs, reduction of repetitive tasks, mitigation of errors, quicker revenue realization, less physical movement and transportation. So it basically ensured trust and transparency. Before that, we can say we have provided a service, container is there, or container is there, or even the truckers, they can say, yeah, the container has reached, but shipper has no means to verify it. So with this, they can see it clearly that where the container is, they can make payments online, they see the consistency of data, digital tools. So all this has improved the trust and transparency. With respect to environment, we are not 100% there, but we have improved paperless trade, reduced footprints, and fuel savings. So this is the data of usage. The QGMS, the new version which we have launched in 2024. Now 44% of the trade is using it. And in a way, it's beneficial for them. The ones who are not using it are not using it for their internal purposes because they want to retain their staff and things like that. So there are other reasons that they are not using it, but product-wise, it is very efficient. Online payments, we have 38% of the trade shifted to online payments, so they don't need to come to the terminal physically to make payments. Self-invoicing is right now 40%, and the electronic delivery order, we are right now at 90%. So we have not made all of these mandatory, but we are confident about the product will induce the trade to use it more and more. So these are the performance records. If you see the visits to our website to search for the information is 1 million in the month of July. So if you multiply it by 12, so it's a 12 million visits per year. And if you see the amount of time it will take for someone to call and come to the terminal to get the same information compared to they can just get it on the website. Our app was downloaded 10,000 plus times, self-invoice 47%, video 90%, footprint reduced at carbon 40%, e-payment 48%. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Fassi?
Sir, my question is DP World committed to reducing carbon footprint at port Kasa? And if yes, and how is progress being made?
We are, although it's a different topic, but we have installed solar panels wherever there was a possibility, so we have done that. All the future equipment will be converted either to electric. So right now we have diesel powered train. So the next replacement will be on the electric power for all the equipment that we use in the terminal.
Okay.
First of all, well done with the digitalization. Secondly, I want to know that do you use any benchmarking, internal or external, to improve your service? For example, 95% service level, 90% service level.
Basically, we do have customer survey that is done from time to time, but the industry in which we operate, they are very proactive to inform you that if something is wrong, they are the first one in your offices. So, but at present, we are doing best in all respect compared to the terminals in Karachi. They are suffering a period of congestion right now. So our productivity levels are the highest and our truck turnaround times are the lowest.
Sir, how do you track your containers and your terminals where they are put in?
Basically, there is a complex system which is like one, we have a database, and so whenever the container comes into the terminal, it is unloaded by a machine. And each machine has a vehicle mounted RDT device where they enter the container number and on which position it was removed, like discharged. So technically, if we have 40-50 operators, everybody has to perform their job correctly. If one of them fails to update, then in a big container terminal, it becomes very hard to figure out where that container is in the terminal. So we are very focused that everyone has to do their job correctly. And also we have done some systematic solutions like in the past, we used to have an export container and then it does not have a location. So we made in a system that if a driver is exiting the terminal and there is no location updated in the system for that particular container, then our gate staff will ask that driver where you have offloaded that container. And then we send someone to verify and get it updated to ensure that each and every container has the right location. So we still have one-off cases where sometimes containers get missing, so we have around 200 CCTV cameras. Then we track the movement from one point to another point. and try to figure out what will be the most possible likely location of that container, and then we send people manually to figure that out. But that's a very rare case.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Yes.
There's a question there.
Sir, specifically you were talking about the digital QIC. So where you see the integration with the government organizations, since they are regulating and they are monitoring the system. So where you see government organization in this ecosystem and where you see QICT in this ecosystem?
Okay, basically, as QICT, we were pretty advanced in compared to the government, and where we have done many initiatives on our own. And the biggest problem that we have with respect to taking our own initiatives is to have a regulatory compliance. Because if we do something and government would like to have a paper, then we need to have a paper. So whatever our initiatives were with respect to like compliance with the government regulations, and that is the reason we might be slow compared to what we would have liked to do. But then whatever room we have got within the government regulations, we have implemented those digital solutions. Right now, Pakistan government is implementing more digital solutions through Pakistan Single Window and Port Community System, so they are moving forward. We had a very good integration with Pakistan Customs, so all the containers which arise goes into their system, the clear comes into our system, so those things are there.
Yes, sir. My question is regarding the transshipment cargo. Are we any plan to handle the transshipment cargos at the Dubai? If yes, then what are the strategies, and if no, then why it is not being handled so far? Number one question. The second is that there are other regional containers like APT, and we are also facing some challenges regarding the detection of the customer on the cargo and containers type. So what are your strategies on that to get more customer on that?
जब आपको दे दूंगा दूसरा फिर आप रिपीट कर दीजिएगा. So let me give you the answer with respect to transshipment. And the transshipment, there is a lot of things maybe transshipment में होनी चाहिए, everything, and we are suitable, but technically we are not suitable for transshipment as a location itself. So the transshipment port, if you see the maps, are on a route where most of the ship naturally passes, like Colombo, Singapore, or Algeciras, Tangiers. So these are the major hubs like which are on the main corridors, or your ecosystem is highly developed where you can get other services, so that attracts transshipment. So unfortunately we don't have none of them, and also our port costs are pretty high compared to the major transshipment ports. So that is also not effective. So in order to have a transshipment, you need to have a major line willing to do that in Pakistan, like Maersk or MSC. And when they decide to see to have transshipment, they will see their overall operational cost, because shipping line does not only for Pakistan, they go throughout the world, and whatever is the most optimal and cost-effective solution, they will choose that for.
Second question regarding
Yeah.
the other player in the container terminals like in KPT, they are basically their competitors. So I believe that we are also facing some challenges regarding the customer attractions. Any strategy to improve the
You are talking about forecasting attracting customer. So the major challenge that we are facing, like customers are very happy generally with services in QICT. There are two segments. One is your shipper consignee segment, and one is your shipping line segment. Shipping line segment, basically what they do, maybe it has already been covered in the other presentation, is that they call a port through which their cost is minimized. So the challenge with the forecasting that we have right now is the draft limitation, which is 13 versus around 15 or 16 in SAPT. So if a big vessel is calling, the cost per TEU reduces. So that's why they do prefer to call. SCPT because of the cost. So if we get a draft of let's say 14.5 as well, then we will be able to attract more customers.
Sir, please. Sir, I have a question. Like, keeping in view of the future demand, have you the future plan to short supply to the ships and fuel bunkering, alternate fuel bunkering, establishment of alternative fuel bunkering, please?
Okay, as I discussed earlier that at present we have diesel powered crane because when these cranes were purchased, the electricity supply was pretty erratic. So, and like port needs to give reliability to its customer. So all those cranes were diesel powered. So, and once you buy a crane, it's there for 20 years with you. And it also has to do with the terminal design, how you construct your terminal, and of course you can switch, but then you need to do some civil investments and everything. So right now we are planning to convert all of our trains into electric trains, and we will be negotiating with K-Electric to give us the green energy. Like K-Electric also produce energy from various sources, like they have windmills and RO area and all those things. So our request from them would be to give the green source. The alternative fuel is, terminal cannot produce an alternative fuel. It has to come through some outside sources. So if that is available, then we are all for it.
Sir, I have a question regarding the Sir, I have a question regarding the software application system that you have developed so far.
Yeah.
So, these all application systems are free of cost to use, or companies have to pay something in order to get the access for the application? And the second thing is that what about the military consignments, the ammunition, arms, and all that? What are you from that vicinity? So, what are the application or the solutions you are providing to the defense consignments and all that? Or we are moving to the same thing, operation?
Okay, basically the websites and the tools that I have discussed are free for use. And the software that we use, of course, we make a good amount for that software purchase and yearly licenses and all those things. So that is a part of our normal terminal operations. And any cost that you spend is recovered somehow. So if you are working as a profitable company, so any cost you say, like, of course, it will not be that something is free, but somehow it is recoverable. But for using that particular tool, you can say, if somebody is bringing a container to me, then giving them these services are not that expensive. So that's one question. With respect to defense shipment, so it's basically if something is for Ministry of Defense and they feel it is a sensitive one, then their guys will be there at the port when that particular consignment is discharged. So I think I cannot say more than that. Sensitive
Okay, we
topic.
have the last
Really
question.
sure.
Please bring the mic closer so we can hear.
So you mentioned that you are facing, QIC is facing the draft issue because of that you are not able to handle with your vessels. So I just wanted to know whether you have any plans for dredging in the pipeline currently?
Okay. Basically, the way it works, that dredging is the responsibility of the port authorities. Like if we are DP World Karachi or Qasim International Container Terminal, the responsibility of dredging lies with the Port Qasim authority. So we are constantly engaging with them to make sure that they do the dredging company. Recently, they have called the tenders in December, and now they have 6 shortlisted vendors as well. And later, if you see the newspaper, there's a national dredging company formed with NLC, Port Qasim, KPT as partners, and they have decided that they will take over the dredging operations. So we hope that it gets done sooner than later.
You mentioned that the port authority has to invest in the whole procedure of dredging.
Come on, yeah, once,
So you mentioned that Port Authority has to invest in the whole process of dredging, but as far as I know, KGTL is going for dredging in the last quarter of 2025, and AD Ports, who is the parent company of KGTL, is investing completely in this whole project. So is DP World not planning to invest on its own, or is it just waiting for the Port Authority?
Okay. Basically, there are two types of dredging. One relates to the berthing pocket, like what is the depth next to your berth. So that is the responsibility of the container terminal, and they maintain it. Then secondly is the channel. So for example, if we take the Port Qasim, the channel length is 23 nautical miles, and 23 nautical mile dredging, which is used by other stakeholders like Fauji Oil Terminal, LNG terminals. So all of them are using the same channel. And so broadly speaking, it is the responsibility of port authorities, but if there is some kind of agreement that there is unavailability of funding or any other reason, then terminal can do that itself as well, provided terms and conditions agreed, and it gives a chance to the terminal to recover its investment already.
So, DP World doesn't have the project of dredging in the pipeline for...
No, not by DP World itself. So there was some discussion, but what authorities have said that we will do it ourselves. So yes, okay, do it.
Okay, we will stop here. And, thank you, sir. And Hubert and Dr. Shujat, please come. Now request Principal Maritime School to present the memento of the Sunday School to our distinguished guest. Thank you. Thank you. We will now break for tea and come back at...
I was forced to take this place, and since I don't believe in burning hard-earned calories, so I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to walk like Hubert or Shujat sir. So bear with me. The purpose of this presentation was that there was actually there are huge challenges to the Pakistan port and shipping sector and associated trade and logistics because of the climate change. So what I felt during the last 5 days that this topic needs to be dealt with in much more detail. But since I was not aware of this talk even 10 minutes ago, so bear with me, don't start asking questions that might not have answers, because this presentation is directly related to the Pakistani maritime sector. So there might be some point of view that might not align with your understanding of that issue. So, but since it is my understanding, so you bear with me. As we all know that climate change is going to impact the ports, and as it is being impacted all over the world. I was talking to Fasih Saab during the tea, and when I learned that he used to work for Long Beach Port, and I was fortunate to look into the preparedness of Long Beach Port, and I have I have really found it a very, very well prepared document that has not captured the present, but it is prepared for the future as well. So, but I believe that since Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has predicted that the sea level around the Pakistan coast is likely to rise more than 60 centimeters by the end of this century. And believe me, 60 centimeter doesn't look that alarming, but when you add 60 centimeter to the existing tidal range, then you are talking about talking in the range of 4+ meters during high tide. And I should run a disclaimer that it is my own understanding, and you might have some other thought, but if you look at the infrastructure of our ports, the Karachi port was constructed in 1884, and the actual operational life of any port is around 100 and 150 years. So the port infrastructure, especially the quay walls, the berths, are not built for the sea level rise. So most of the world, most of the ports around the world are raising their berths to adjust with the sea level rise. So we need to do something. Fasih Saab talked about the dredging, but this is one of the more and very important element as well. If you can see that the one of the topmost journal, The Economist, conducted a survey, and according to this survey, about 340 of the largest ports are vulnerable to the climate change. And fortunately or unfortunately, none of the Pakistani ports are included. But the actual reason is that most of the critical data about the ports are either hidden under the covers or not accessible. These are some of the climate change related events which a port is likely to experience over the years. When we talk about the ports and when we talk about the climate change impact, one of your port, what is meant is that the whole supply chain of the country, which is totally dependent on the sea trade, is going to be paralyzed. Partially, temporarily, partially, but it might be very extended periods, and God forbid, we are not prepared. According to the Environmental Defense Fund, climate change impact could cost the shipping industry an additional $25 billion annually by 2100. So, keeping in view the financial position of Pakistan, it would be very, very tough for port authorities and for the port operators to tackle with the rising sea levels. This is just to show that it is not concerned about the developing world, but the well-developed and most financially powerful countries had also experienced a lot of losses and damages. This is a very interesting book, and I think you all the port operators and all the port authorities must read this book. The title of the book is Act Now or Pay Later, and this title says everything. And according to the research undertaken in the book, it says that the projected cause of sea level rise and stronger storm for ports and shipping in future years. If you see the damages by the year of 2050, it is likely to be 1.8 to 7.1 billion per year. But this loss is going to be many-fold higher by the end of this century. This is just the track of cyclones and storm surges to this Arabian Sea, and you can see that gradually the frequency of storm surges and cyclones has increased a lot. We used to hear about a cyclone after every 5-10 years, but recently, since last couple of years, we are hearing information about the development of cyclones in the Arabian Sea after at least twice or thrice every year. If you see the line after the two bullets, that each dollar invested in resilience can yield a $4 benefit. So it is very important to invest in port infrastructure, because if you start investing or if you start repairing your port after the incident, then it is going to be very difficult and very expensive. This is again the impact of climate change on different American ports. But let me show you something very interesting. If you see this table, you can see that there are a number of countries, number of very, very technologically advanced ports around the world that were totally paralyzed for a number of days. And you can see the amount of damages caused by the storm surge to these ports. Look at the port Busan of Korea. It was paralyzed, unoperational for more than 91 days. Can KPT or Port Qasim afford to be non-operational for even a day? About US Port of Mobile and Port of New Orleans, they were non-operational for 15 days. And similarly, you can see a lot of ports. And if you see in 2019, the port of Lanzhou in China, it was non-operational for more than 45 days. And this is huge in terms of the financial loss incurred by the non-operational status of the ports. Let me this is a very interesting example. The Indian government has prepared a document known as Sagarmala. And this document is very relevant, and they have prepared very extensive plan for the connectivity of Indian ports for the maritime trade and logistics. The four principal pillars of the Sagarmala is port modernization, port connectivity, port-led industrialization, and fourth is coastal community development. What is the most crucial element missing from the report? Any guess? Any reason for that?
Lack in foresight.
Chances, less chances.
Any guess?
Less chances of disaster.
No.
Disaster.
If you see the map of India, they have a huge network of ports on either side of India. So if one side of India is non-operational, they have alternate arrangements. But if you compare this situation in case of Pakistan, all the three ports are on the same side of the coast. So India can afford to miss out the possible impact of climate change. But we don't have this luxury. This is just to give you some idea that climate change is going to cause a lot. So what is the crux of my talk is that it is never too late that we must start educating our administration, our port authorities and our decision makers to look into the possibilities of climate change. Because when we are talking about the potential threat to the Pakistani port infrastructure, this is not a poetry, this is not a fiction. This is, God forbid, is likely to happen. So this is the question. How will Pakistani port? One of the I don't want Hubert to listen this, so I'm saying this in Urdu. Okay, एक जो चीज़ हमने बिल्कुल भी कंसिडर नहीं की है कि दुनिया में हर पोर्ट के पास ऑप्शंस होते हैं टू डील विद द लोकेट कार्गो, टू deal with the bulk cargo, to deal with the all containers. But why can't we implement the same policy? Why are you listening? You are not supposed to listen. So we must give a wake-up call to our authorities, our companies, our institutions to start thinking about the potential hazard of climate change. Sorry, I am skipping all that because I was just pushed on the stage, so you can read this. And if you are welcome to ask any question with reference to the potential risk to Pakistan and Pakistan coast.
The earthquakes are not included.
Sorry? Actually, if you are talking about tsunami. No power on this world can handle tsunami. No. It is going to be totally destructive.
Not even Japan.
Not even. If you visit the 2011 tsunami of Japan, number of ports were totally destroyed.
But still they were resilient and they had some preparation. They were resilient and they had some.
No, actually, you are. Actually, don't take it personally, but there is always a confusion. Climate change has nothing to do with tsunami. Tsunami is a totally different phenomenon. So, what I am trying to say is, you cannot predict tsunami, you cannot predict earthquake, but you are aware of the sea level rise, and you have been warned by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that Pakistan is going to see a sea level rise up to the possible 60 centimeter high. So what does that mean? You have got how many? 75 years from now to prepare your infrastructure. A day is not very far that sea water is going to visit your backyard, especially along the coast of Karachi during high tides. But gradually that the visit of sea intrusion or the duration of sea intrusion is going to increase, and a day is not very far that once the sea water is going to intrude into the residential or industrial area, it is going to stay there. Like many examples in the world.
So we have time. We waste time.
We don't have time. If you start building a new infrastructure, you need resources, you need plenty of efforts. The first barrier is realization of the threat. Once you realize that there is a potential threat, you can discuss this with Fasisa. He has been associated with Long Beach, Port of the Long Beach, and they have, I can share their climate change resilience policy that is wonderfully drafted. Hubert, do you agree?
Yeah, we don't have time.
Sorry?
We don't have time.
Yeah.
I think here is maybe the thing here is indeed we are aware of it, that these climate change is ongoing. We are aware of the impact, but somehow indeed to take measures against it, to mitigate risks like floods or by sea level rise or by also severe storms, which is also an effect of climate change. And otherwise, as we also discussed, is to have to reduce the effect of this climate change. And I know it is extremely tough and extremely complex. We have to move on. Otherwise, I don't know what will be the effect. You can say the year 2100 is far away and almost no one of us will be there. None. But still, it's also a sort of responsibility towards future generations. So it is. By the way, it was interesting to see that a number of these ports are in developed parts of the world, like the US and Korea.
And so I mean, certainly the US was heavily damaged. And I remember that after Katrina, I think that also some Dutch engineers were there in order to heighten the sea barriers. Of course, we in Holland had, which was, I don't think, certainly at that time, 1953, so quite long ago, a severe storm together with spring tide, which came from the northwest, so that is heavily attacking the Dutch coast. And within one night, in the southern parts of Holland, a lot of land was flooded. And I think 1,200 or 1,500 people passed away, were killed. And that was the reason for the Dutch government to build all these dams and protections in the southwest part of Holland, which by the way, one was in order to maintain sort of biodiversity in one sea lane. So they made a very costly and complex construction so that the ebb and flood tide still is going on in this sea, or this now, which is sort of an artificial lake. But it was very clear at the time that we needed to protect themselves against storm and high water levels.
If I can just add to that, Netherlands is facing, has challenges. Netherlands has challenges that it faces every day. So it's not anything like the storm surges are happening once in a while. But it's Netherlands has its own dynamics, and it's just so unique from the rest of the world. It's one of those unique cases where, and I guess that's one of the reasons why they have so many hydrologists and engineers that are continuously working on that, and why they excelled in this area so much, because that's a challenge there everyone is facing every day. Absolutely, absolutely. Most of Holland is,
The west part of Holland is below sea level. Central parts are below sea level.
Let me ask one question. Again, I don't want Hubert to listen this. आपको के ख्याल में पाकिस्तान की कौन सी ज़्यादा नहीं आवाम से
No, I just added that the national airport at Schiphol in Amsterdam is below sea level. I think 2 or 3 meters.
But the thing is that the Dutch government has protected it with huge investment. So what I want to know is which of the port do you think that is more under threat to the climate change?
Do you want to comment on that? The engineers would know probably, the coastal engineer should know that. The coastal engineer.
Pakistan.
Oh wow.
Actually, अगर आप लोगों का रिस्पॉन्स कोई कर रहा है रिस्पॉन्स पे
इंजीनियर्स एनआईए कर सकते हैं, बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं, एनआईए कर सकते हैं.
Sir, related to Port Qasim, as Port Qasim is in sheltered water, that we are away from 45 kilometers from the main sea, so we are already shallow water, so I think we have less chances of exposure to climate change.
I can comment on that. The barrier islands, that's a big protection, so we have to take care of the barrier islands also, make sure that they're around. And the dredging that you're probably going to carry out, obviously you need fresh hydrodynamical work to make any kind of predictions of how the sea will behave. Yeah, but those are things that they have to be ongoing, because the Greeks are continuously changing. So you have to keep doing that kind of work. And the predictions can only come in. And in recent years, we've seen these supermoon events become more regular. We have these super tides, which have become very regular. So those are things that need to be monitored and very seriously looked at. There are many technological developments that are taking place. Satellite is one of them, and we're very fortunate that Pakistan has launched its own remote sensing satellite. Let's hope that it covers all these parameters also. I'm not quite sure about what sensors it's carrying, but we need to look into those things. And the ports have to also invest in their R&D, etc. And I think I remember the last Biparjoy event that took place, the Biparjoy cyclone that hit, and 17 national institutions were on board. It was being coordinated by the Ministry of Climate Change at the time. And that was a success story, and we were able to save a lot of lives. And but unfortunately, we did not have our own data. We did not have observations from our own sensors. We took it from the neighboring countries to integrate our models. So in order for the models and in order for the predictions to be run, we need our own data. We just don't rely on predictions. We have to have real-time data sets.
I would like to comment about forecasting. Partially, your understanding about forecasting is partially correct. Provided if you can enforce the sidebanks of Fitty Creek, because Fitty Creek is just mud flats, and even when a ship crosses to the channel, there is always some slumping. So you need to protect the whole 45 kilometers of the channel to protect. But every port of Pakistan has its own merit and demerits. But what we need to do is we need to have a proper and realistic assessment. And unfortunately, at least to my knowledge, that most of the data that can help in building some resilience plan or protection plan is either doesn't exist or it is outdated. We need to have regular frequency of sampling and monitoring of all that area. Okay? No more? Sorry.
So thank you for enlightening us about the climate change and the possible disaster. Would you please suggest few measures which any port may take to mitigate the climate disaster? Thank you.
Actually, this is a very interesting question. I was just going through different countries adjacent to Pakistan, and I was surprised to see the preparedness of the country, and that speaks about the mindset. If you go through the coastal hazard map of Oman, you are going to be surprised. They have mapped each and every single building and each and every house, and they have marked that if the sea level is going to rise 30 centimeter, these areas are going to be under the sea. So we need to, first of all, what we need to know or what we need to understand is that a realization of the potential threat. There is no point of closing our eyes and to giving us wrong message that it is never going to happen. It is already, you can ask, as Samina was telling you about that, we are already facing several issues with reference to the climate change. There was a cyclone in 2019. I just forget the name of that cyclone. That cyclone passes through about 350 nautical miles south of Pakistan, but the Gulf Club of DHA was flooded. Just imagine if it was closer to Karachi.
जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि सक्सेस स्टोरीज 17 इंस्टीट्यूशंस ने इसके अंदर कंट्रीब्यूट किया और that's one way of actually showing कि अगर scientists or administrators how if they work closely and are coordinated rightly तो किस तरह से इम्पैक्ट होता है. एंड आई थिंक जो इनंडेशन मॉडल बना था उसमें इवैक्यूएशन हुआ, सिविल जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन थी उसने इवैक्यूएशन किया और ऑलमोस्ट 80,000 लोगों की जानें बची उससे. जो डॉक्टर साहब ने आपको ओमान की जो स्टोरी बताई है वो ये कि 2006 की बात है या ऐसे ही कुछ उसी दौरान की बात है कि एक साइक्लोन आया था, उसका नाम था गोनू, और गोनू ने had made a landfall in Muscat. एंड उस वक्त क्योंकि right after that event I had this chance to be in Muscat and talk to some of our colleagues जो oceanographers थे, और उन्होंने बताया कि उनके घरों में जो कि काफ़ी ऊंचे घर थे, पानी जो था वो ऐसा था जो दरवाज़ों तक पानी आप सोच सकते हैं. एंड एक मैकडॉनल्ड्स का वो M लिखा हुआ था तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये मैकडॉनल्ड्स के M तक की पानी था. सो दे हैड एक्चुअली एक्सपीरियंस दैट, जो उन्होंने अपनी अर्बन फ्लडिंग और कोस्टल फ्लडिंग क्योंकि एक्सपीरियंस की थी, तो आई गेस दैट वाज वन आई ओपनर फॉर देम. And obviously we cannot compare ourselves with Oman and with countries like that, but ये कि ये ऐसा नहीं है कि हम जो है वो बहुत सेफ हैं. हाँ, कुछ हद तक ही फॉर्चुनेट हैं कि इतना बड़ा लैंड मास जो इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट का लैंड मास है वो बीच में आता है और अक्सर हमें बचा लेता है, लेकिन इसका ये हरगिज़ मतलब नहीं है कि हमारी वनरेबिलिटी नहीं है. आई थिंक वनरेबिलिटी इंडेक्स शायद मैंने आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं देखी, लेकिन शायद आपने वनरेबिलिटी इंडेक्स अगर दिखाया होगा तो उसमें लोगों को पता चलेगा कि हम जो है वो टॉप 10 के अंदर हैं. कुछ चीज़ों में हम क्लाइमेट चेंज और वार्मिंग, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग के रेफरेंस से हम शायद 5वें नंबर पे हैं. सो एंड 2022 के फ्लड्स में हमने देखा कि जो इस किस्म के वेदर के पैटर्न्स जो है वो ऑल्टरेशन हो रही है. सो वो हमें ना सिर्फ रेन्स प्रेसिपिटेशन के रेफरेंस से बल्कि बाकी तमाम रेफरेंसेस से भी अगर हम देखें कि आपकी जो रेन्स अगर सीजनल वेरिएशन होती है, अगर 15 दिन भी डिले होती है, तो हम एक एग्रीकल्चर इकॉनमी है, बहुत बड़ी पॉपुलेशन है, 5वीं 6ठी लार्जेस्ट पॉपुलेशन है दुनिया की. सो अगर हम जो है वो हमें इतने लोगों को फूड सिक्योरिटी इंश्योर करना है कि वो उनके लिए खाना मुहैया हो, और हमारे यहाँ वी आर इम्पोर्टिंग वीट एंड अदर थिंग्स जो कि फूड कमोडिटीज़ हैं, और हमारा जो मेन जो एग्रीकल्चर एरिया है वो रबी और खरीफ के ऊपर ही दोनों फसलें जो है वो सो की जाती हैं, क्रॉप्स जो है वो उसी के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है। 15 दिन का डिले भी जो है वो इम्पैक्ट आपके एग्रीकल्चर पे भी करता है और दूसरे सेक्टर्स पे भी करता है। तो सिर्फ ये पोर्ट सेक्टर्स और ये नहीं है, ये एक हमारे सर्वाइवल का कनेक्टेड है इसके साथ, और बहुत बड़ी पॉपुलेशन है। हम इंटरनली डिस्प्लेस्ड पर्सन्स की भी बात करते हैं। दोज आर थिंग्स दैट वी हैव एक्चुअली सीन हैपनिंग इन द कोस्टल एरियाज आल्सो ड्यूरिंग द टाइम्स जब साइक्लोन्स ने लैंडफॉल किया था 1999 में, और फिर बीच में जो फ्लड्स आए थे उसमें भी, और 22 के फ्लड्स में ऑलमोस्ट 2/3 of the country was part of the affectees. So those are things that are really real issues, and obviously reference to the ports. जैसे मैंने आप लोगों को कहा कि ऑब्जर्वेशंस बहुत ज़रूरी हैं। कोई भी प्रोटेक्शन मॉडल आपको अगर रन करना है, यू कैन हैव वेरी फैंसी मॉडल्स, but if you don't have the observations, the real-time observations to be fed into those models, and the people to understand and interpret them, then it's really no point having these big, fancy infrastructure. So, ये चीज़ें तो मेरे ख्याल है कि ऑब्वियस ही हैं, तो बार बार कहना चाहिए। We should do that. अच्छा, अभी we are almost at the yes, of course.
Sorry, my name is Commodore Mohsin. तो इतनी interesting topic, बड़ा important discuss हो रहा था. I was tempted to say something. Fighting nature is next to impossible. जिस तरह अभी बात हो रही है, I think, and it's a very important concern of all of us, especially this ये जो seaside वाली countries है जहाँ सी फ्रंट है और ports हैं, ये तो vulnerable, they're all vulnerable. So cyclones and tsunamis are both different phenomena. So cyclones की तो we have SOPs, और सारी मरम नेवी में भी, और ports भी अभी फयाज साहब भी शायद को बताएं, they have SOPs how to sail कर देंगे शिप को, अपनी चीज़ों को सिक्योर करेंगे। साइक्लोन्स को फाइट करने का एक अलग पूरा मैकेनिज्म SOP है, हम we rehearse that, we practice that, but there is a limit to that, and उसके बाद फिर something has to come by nature. लेकिन जो सुनामी है उसका तो बिल्कुल एक डिफरेंट सब्जेक्ट है, उसको तो फाइट करना किसी भी नेशन के लिए ग्लोबली उस तरह पॉसिबल नहीं है। आपने बड़ी बड़ी इंग्लिश मूवीज़ भी देखी होंगी, पूरे पूरे सिटीज़ जो है वो वाइप आउट हो रहे हैं। सो फयाज साहब, आई थिंक केपीटी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आपकी एसओपी के पॉइंट एक लास्ट अगर कमेंट दे दें इजाज़त डॉक्टर साहब से।
थैंक यू मोहसिन साहब, थैंक यू समीना। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कि जी जो आपने कहा एसओपी, दैट वाज एक्चुअली रिस्पांस जो हमने अपने रिस्पांस प्लान्स बनाए हुए। टू थिंग्स आई वांट टू मेंशन हियर। नंबर वन इज दैट केपीटी फॉर एग्जांपल अभी जो रिसेंटली हमारा अर्थ रिस्ट्रक्चर हुई है 15 to 17, वर्ल्ड बैंक के साथ मिलकर हमने इस क्लाइमेट रिसीलियंस को बड़ा हैवीली किया था। तो उसमें हमारी जो टीम थी उसके साथ काम करके हमने उसका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का सारा वो प्लान किया था। इसी तरह SAPTL के अंदर भी वाटर रिजीम और प्लस हाइड्रोडायनामिक्स को देखा गया, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली फर्स्ट टाइम SAPTL बनने के बाद NOU के सामने पानी आया था, यू विटनेस दैट। बट मैं एक यहाँ एग्जाम्पल देना चाहूँगा, बट नॉट क्रिटिसाइजिंग एनी गवर्नमेंट हियर। 2010 में देयर वाज एन एशियन गवर्नमेंट बैंक का एक टेक्निकल असिस्टेंस आई थी इन पाकिस्तान। दे वांट टू हैव ए क्लाइमेट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप करना चाह रहे थे, और टेक्निकल असिस्टेंस आई वाज पार्ट ऑफ इट। बट एट दैट टाइम एवरीबॉडी वाज लाफिंग ऑन इट कि जी क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा। बट व्हेन जो आपने अभी 2022 के फ्लड्स की बात की, देन नाउ दे रियलाइज कि अगर उसको इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप हमने किया होता विद रेफरेंस टू दी क्लाइमेट रिजिलियंस, तो हम शायद इतने आबाद ना होती। और दूसरा जो लास्ट है सुनामी का, वो नो डाउट यूनाइटेड नेशन के साथ मिलकर केपीटी ने अपनी OMPS पे एक असेसमेंट के लिए एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट लगाया हुआ है, जो हम डेटा देते हैं फ्रॉम आवर हाइड्रोग्राफी डिपार्टमेंट टू द सुनामी सेंटर एट यूनाइटेड नेशन कि जी क्या सी लेवल राइज हो रहा है, क्या टाइड्स का इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है। तो दिस इज द फ्यू थिंग्स व्हिच केपीटी इज डूइंग नो डाउट।
सुनामी का मैं बहुत ज़्यादा तो नहीं जानती, हमारा सुनामी एक्सपर्ट, बट मैं कितना जानती हूँ कि इट डज नॉट गिव यू सफिशिएंट वार्निंग फॉर पीपल टू मूव आउट ऑफ इट्स वे। एज फार एज द साइक्लोन इज कंसर्न, जैसे मैंने आपको बिपरजॉय की एग्जांपल दी कि कंटिन्यूसली मेट डिपार्टमेंट के साथ जो था वो था, और जब वो रडार के रेंज में, जब वेदर रडार के रेंज में विंड्स का आया तो फिर then we were able to actually generate, और फिर ऑब्वियसली वो डाई डाउन भी हो गया, वो बचत हो गई। उसके बावजूद भी फिर इनंडेशन मॉडल्स रन करके इवैक्यूएशन कराया गया और सेफ्टी हुई। With reference to the projects that keep coming, yes, World Bank projects came in 1999 2A की वजह से left bank outfall rain wala incidents. You know, Pakistan has many stories to tell. कुछ अच्छी हैं, कुछ इतनी अच्छी नहीं हैं। As far as the projects is concerned, अभी इस वक्त सिंध गवर्नमेंट का एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक के साथ प्रोजेक्ट है रेजिलियंस का, कोस्टल रेजिलियंस का प्रोजेक्ट है जो कि विद रेफरेंस टू नेचुरल हैजर्ड्स चल रहा है, और ऑब्वियसली जो नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं वो कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं उसके अंदर, और ऑब्जर्वेटरीज बहुत ज़रूरी हैं। आई कांट स्ट्रेस इनफ फॉर दिस। सैटेलाइट इमेजिंग बहुत ज़रूरी है। यहाँ पे एक प्रोजेक्ट था जो पाकिस्तान और चाइना के साथ लगाना था, ग्राउंड स्टेशन रिसीविंग स्टेशन था जिसके अंदर जियो स्टेशनरी सैटेलाइट्स और दूसरी सैटेलाइट्स का रिसीविंग स्टेशन था। एक्चुअली रिसीविंग स्टेशन सुपार्को का ऑलरेडी मौजूद है इस्लामाबाद में, लेकिन वो मैरीटाइम जोन को कवर नहीं करता, उसकी रेंज जो है वो कवर नहीं होती। इस वजह से उसको एक कोस्टल ऑब्जर्वेटरी की ज़रूरत थी, रिसीविंग स्टेशन की ज़रूरत थी जो कि पूरे हमारे EEZ को कवर, इनफैक्ट वो पूरे नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडियन ओशन को कवर करता है, तो वो ज़रूरी है। और आपको पता है इतनी बड़े इन्वेस्टमेंट्स जो हैं वो कोई भी ज़रूरत के बगैर खड़े नहीं किए जाते हैं। So anyway, we will stop here. These are, just going into another area of expertise. We will stop here for the lunch and prayer break. आप लोगों को सिर्फ ये बताना है कि आप प्लीज़ 2:20 पे आप वापस आ जाइएगा, बिकॉज डॉक्टर शुजात विल टॉक टू अस इंशाल्लाह ताला on time. We will begin inshallah ta'ala right on time at 3:30 for the closing ceremony. Also hopefully आप लोगों का वक्त पे जो है वो सब कुछ मामला जो है वो conclude हो सकेगा। ख़वातीन के लिए there is a prayer place, जो मॉस्क है उसका जो फर्स्ट फ्लोर है that's the ladies area. They have a prayer place there. उसकी अप्रोच जो है वो लेफ़्ट साइड से ऊपर मॉस्क के हिस्सा ही है, उसमें आप अगर नमाज जमात के साथ तो ज़रूरत नहीं है लेडीज़ को, लेकिन बहरहाल दैट प्लेस इज़ देयर अवेलेबल फॉर यू। And since we don't have students on the campus, so it should not be that busy. Students होते हैं तो फिर जगह भी नहीं मिलती है, खचाखच होता है, बहुत अच्छा होता है in fact। अच्छा, आप लोगों ने 2:20 पे प्लीज़ कोशिश कीजिएगा वापस अपनी सीट से आ जाइएगा, ठीक है? और थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर दैट पेशेंट लिसनिंग, एंड थैंक यू फॉर लिसनिंग टू अस ऑल्सो। ओशनोग्राफर्स को भी मौका मिल गया कोई बात करने का आप लोगों से।